display.
Okay. And testing. Good. Okay. Professionally done.
You guys are seeing the presentation, right? Is Mac? All right. Now it's gone.
It is.
Yeah, now change the input so that we see the presentation too, and we are off. This is good. All right, so we're going to begin very soon here. We've got guest chat talker from Activision, Alex, talking to us. One thing for people who are joining on Life-Size Cloud, we've got a ton of people on Life-Size Cloud. Please remember to make sure you're muted. Everybody seems to be muted right now, but make sure you're muted unless you want to ask a question, and then unmute yourself and ask questions because that's part of the Chalk Talk. So this is Alex's second Chalk Talk. The last one he did was 8 years ago.
Yes.
8 years ago. Wow. This is Chalk Talk 373. Sorry, I'm not quite as big. And Alex is working at Activision and is going to be giving this presentation at SIGGRAPH Asia in how many weeks?
In next week.
Next week?
Yes.
All right. So thank you very much for doing this, and begin. And take as much time as you want. Do you want us to time this?
Yes, please. It'll be a 20-minute talk, I guess.
Okay, and then we can ask questions and whatever. So this may actually be a short Chalk Talk. Cool.
Hello, everyone. So it's my pleasure to come to DD again to do this Chalk Talk. And today I'm going to talk about some of these Blendshape pipeline and some innovation we built at Activision to facilitate our production. And this work has been done with me, Matthias, Etienne, Lamarre, Medico, Javier, and Cyrus. So only the first author and the last author are now in the company right now. I'll be that over there.
So Etienne is on Life-Size Cloud.
Oh. Awesome. I said, Doug said it's my honor to be here. So 8 years ago, I just showed this work. I was doing some mechanism that can compress deformation for faces, and such that you can like you can see from the Oh, sorry. Wait, hold on 1 second. Oh, okay. Yes. So this is like a real capture. We actually set up this license from Paul David's lab to do a live capture of human face performance, and then because the data will be quite a lot, it will be a huge size for data because we're capturing high resolution match for each frame, and at that time we're running this thing at 30 frames per second. So you can imagine we accumulate a lot of at least match data. So I have to come up with some way to compress it. And this is actually do. Then since then, well, we're moving on to actually because you can actually capture a lot of data, but how can you push that to production? But because in production sense, we are still using like a bone-based rig or blendshapes rig. So how can we kind of incorporate this kind of real life captured data into production case? And actually,
sorry, I'm just making. Okay, cool.
Activision, we are also doing a facial animation because a lot of hotline rely on this to deliver remarkable moments for the players. And also many researchers around the world they are like us, they're pushing the limits for facial animation. But we're also interested in like how we use this technology, using technology in general to facilitate our production. So it's not only like, well, we want to do better solving or we want to do like better fitting or track data, but also try to think, okay, how can we use this to facilitate our production, to mitigate some of the issues, like to reduce the burden for artists. So this is something we want to focus, and that is the key for the talk for today. And as I said, we're seeing in recent years, there's a lot of facial animation papers at SIGGRAPH Asia. They're mostly focusing on, using, for example, depth sensor or mobile phone. They can capture faces, they can do facial tracking reliably, robustly. So one way they did this was they incorporate this idea. Let's just say we have a template model for face, Blendshape usually. Then we use that to track a face. And if that cannot track accurately, let's just add some more bases. Either the people use PCA bases to encode the residual for the fitting, or they use like for example in this paper it's very small in this row, but showing small. It's like a graph Lamarre base eigenvector. So but anyway, they add this out to kind of like bring this close to the real input. And also because PCA or this graph Laplacian-based eigenvector, they kind of do like encode low frequency information. So it's also a way to get rid of noise. But it's something that we don't want to consider because so usually these basis vectors, they are global support, which means you're adding something like if you're adding out, then every basis will move a whole part of the face. So it would then in the end you are losing control. You're losing semantic control. For example, if I have a fact shape like just jaw open, right, and you will only move the jaw and don't bother with other part of the face. However, if you're adding this global support basis out, then when I do jaw open, then you can see the face will move all over the place. Even though some of the area maybe just have tiny difference move, but this is something like you are losing control. Basically, then when you try to author a sequence of animation, you don't know, okay, why this thing always move out? It's because it will basically, this global support basically will kind of mess up everything. So we kind of have this idea from a paper by Hao Li in 2010. At that time, he was doing a research on providing like how to do deformation transfer from one rig to another. So we can, hey, this idea is very good. He only optimized for the Blendshape themselves. So he doesn't really adding out extra bases to help him to fit better. And at that time, his research is not actually a fitting, it's for facial fitting. It's actually just for transferring. But I think this idea is very neat. Just the idea that try to optimize on the Blendshape itself rather than adding up bases. So this is something we incorporate into our research. Because this research is based on capturing human facial measurements, then turn those into Blendshape rig. So the first step is definitely how we digitize human performance. And we actually brought a light stage from Paul David there. And we also argument with many different other like new cameras to facilitate our production. So at the current state, we have 32 machine vision cameras that we can capture live at 75 frames per second. This allows us to capture like motion from neutral to, if you just say we capture fast poses, we can capture from neutral to all the poses. Then we also can track between any neutral to any pose. Then also we have the light stage style from the ICT. We have DSLR that will capture high resolution shapes and also textures. But that was not using for this research.
I have one question. But 75 or 32 cameras, are they all in a sphere, or are they pointed at the face?
They are kind of scattered around the whole sphere. So because we can also capture the back of the head. Capture the back of the head, but you're not using any. I mean, that doesn't come into play. No, that doesn't come for it. But sometimes if you have other application, for example, you may want to have to. Okay. Particularly for a typical session, we capture 60 to 100 poses. That's actually a lot. So. Thanks to Javier, actually. One of this, because this is his legacy. Like we can actually have very industrialized pipeline for capturing, human poses. Like we can capture this half day or full day session, then we can process that automatically through our pipeline, and by maybe end of the week we already get all the data, and it will generate like terabytes of data in the meantime. So we're short of our cloud story. But as I said, we are not using DSL for this test. But these are the typical like quality of mesh we can capture. We actually capture full head. Then not only for static poses, but we're actually capturing everything in between. Then so the setup, the process will capture dense point cloud at each frame. Then it will be a test like how, because once we want to do further study or development, we have to actually set up this correspondence between each scan, because those point cloud is not uncorrelated. Then you have to set up some kind of correspondence. This is where tracking will kick in. So we track with basic tracking. You track the information from the current frame to the other frame, basically by using some image features. So we have a cross-to-find tracking mechanism starting from very, very basic but robust facial landmark detection, and they're actually open source software that can grab from the web. There are a lot of them. And this will just provide very cross but robust basis alignment. Then with the second stage, we're using image features like SIG or SIGGRAPH or passive royalty-free if you use. But basically, we'll provide scattered but actually very accurate per pixel level correspondence. Then in the end, what the final step will be using OpenFlow to gather to have very dense full pixel resolution correspondence. Then we have all these 2D features we use. Then we project to the 3D mesh to get the 3D constraint for those. And once you have the 3D constraint, at this point you want to move to that 3D position from this frame to next frame. Then we use a simple Laplacian deformation to deform that mesh. But because you have, you might have, for example, at the last stage, you are using OpenFlow, then you may have millions of samples, right? Because the pixel number is probably millions. So, and you also each point in the 3D will not totally align with a Blendshape vertex. It will be you have your very sparse grid, your mesh you want to track, right? But the Blendshape rig tend to be only maybe 10,000 or 20,000 vertices. But now you have a medium sample you want to deform. So a way to map the two is to use barycentric coordinate. You have to represent your 3D constraint, from this frame to move to that frame, encode that with the barycentric coordinate from the mesh itself. That is, you have so because the mesh, the grid is, so usually people do this. People, if it's lazy, they use nearest point, right? They find the nearest point for the Blendshape and just say, okay, let's go and move to that. But it's not something you want to do because they will lose precision. So you want to encode in some way. So this is, if you see the equation here, so the first term is Laplacian deformation. The L is Laplacian magic. And the second thing is basically a constraint. Basically, the C is a 3D constraint that tells you how to move, where to move to. And you have this B matrix, which is a barycentric coordinate. So B will be very sparse, and each row will have 3 0 barycentric coordinate. Then you use this relationship, and M is basically like a confidence, so you can ignore M if you want. The BP equals to C, basically something you want to optimize for.
What's C?
C is a constraint, 3D constraint that tell you, okay, you have to move this point to that position in 3D.
And is there one constraint per camera, or?
It will be one constraint. It will be one equation per 3D constraint, right? Like to say you find out that in the last stage you have OpenFlow for every pixel, or for a certain region you have every pixel has where to move to the next frame, right? So each pixel will contribute to one equation, one of these equations.
But you have lots of cameras. You're doing.
Yeah. So every camera will also come. So you can see there will be millions of equations for this test, for this. So here's a typical tracking result that we can achieve. But you see the deformation for the lip is faithfully captured. And this is another example. But keep in mind, we capture like 60 to 120 poses like this, and we track through. Then this is basically a fundamental work we have to do, because then we set up the correspondences. So then once you have everything tracked, then you have all the shapes that can be already prepared for the next thing, which is that like you can give those to artists to prepare the blend shapes. So usually the typical work is you have to remove the rigid motion from the head, because then it tends to, when you capture poses, the head is it's always moving, so you have to compensate for that. You might choose a master neutral, then you have to align all other poses to that neutral, and this is a scale job, so you actually have very experienced artists to do the alignment, because face actually move everything everywhere. Then you have to do segmentation, where you want to crop the area that you are interested in. For example, if you're doing jaw open, then you certainly want to have the jaw part, but you probably don't want to have the eyebrow move or thing. So you have to actually pan that out, then just get something that you need. And there's so back in 2005, I guess, there was a SIGGRAPH course that basically by Ping and Lewis, basically discussing these digital characters. Then there's a term called Hirokimation, and basically the very experienced artist back in Disney, Hiroki. He did this significant job by, let's just say you have a capture pose. Then you don't know. So then you also have some the blend shape that you want to view. Like you blend shape, you have some definition like jaw open, you have eyebrow raiser, you have eye close, this kind of thing. Then how are you going to like do this segmentation? Like people just, for example, if you're doing jaw open, simply we cut the jaw, right? But let's just say if it's a pose that is difficult to segment, like how can you do this? So the way he did was he actually tried to adjust blend shape. Like let's say he had the initial read. Then he just tried to dial in different ways that can try to fit that input pose at best, right? By doing by hand, doing by his experience. Then certainly there will be like residual to fit. Then he kind of grabbed those residual and redistribute to the input read to do a update step. Then once you do the update, you might think, okay, it can probably better fit for the current pose, right? But you remember you have a lot of poses you have to fit, right? And now you're changing this read to best fit the pose 1, but maybe it will be worse for pose 2 or pose 3. So, but he is very experienced, though. I mean, he did it by hand, and it will be over and over a lot of iterations to make a perfect read. And this is something like it's really difficult for that's why like rigorous reading for all the model is important, because they have to do this thing right. Otherwise, when this read pushed to animation, then certain animation complain, oh, I cannot achieve this pose. Can you update? Then this is just going on again. So we want to solve this problem in a more like automatic way, or like pitch it as more in terms of optimization. Like how can we optimize a read, a facial blend shape read based on we capture poses, but try to see how can we describe this problem in terms of mathematics. So let's just, for example, now we just don't even look at the head region motion during this capture. Let's just assume our read motion is removed or magically removed in doing all of our capture. But still, you can imagine, because you don't know the shapes and you don't know the combination weight. So essentially, this is becomes a problem of matrix factorization. Like you have a capture poses as a matrix, but you have to somehow decompose it into blend shapes and also their corresponding weights, right? But you don't know both. So usually people maybe they start with initial read and they solve for it. Then that's all. Or they kind of solve for it and get a residual, like Hirokimation. They kind of update the residual and so on. But essentially, you are doing this metric federation problem, and that is mathematically it's an ill pose, right? Because you can actually match it into anything, right? So you probably, because it's ill pose, you have to add some regulation. So regulation means knowledge. That you have to provide this thing as some knowledge. For example, you know how human poses work, like your jaw definitely open is not moving out, or you don't have some knowledge for that. You have to provide this organization with some extra knowledge, or okay, maybe if we're capturing dynamic sequence, then okay, the Blendshape way for this frame might be very similar to the next frame because it's a temporal coherence. So you have to provide those to the organization. So what we did was, we still want to solve this problem, and we are providing a lot of regulation to guide through this organization such that get the result we want. Essentially we're solving two questions. So usually people do the first, they have known shape, then they solve for the weight and rigid motion. Then people how we like, for example, if you're doing motion capture, you're doing performance capture, you're doing this thing, a lot of this thing. Like artists prepare a rig, then you use this rig to solve the performance either from the head cam or from like markers or for image itself. Usually people do this thing. But if you think further, then you can actually, because this is a matrix federation problem, right? So if you fix one, you can solve the other one. So usually people fix the D variable, which is the shapes, and solve for the W, which is the weight. But you can actually fix the weight and solve for the D. This will guarantee you have a good shape update in terms of mathematics. So the second thing we want to do is once we have this weight and rigid motion, we're going to feed it back to this equation and solve for the shapes. This will give us a shape update. And this is basically what's so-called like expectation maximization, where you fix one variable and solve for the other. And there's also the main term, like people call it like alternating optimization, or some people say it's like coordinate descent, where you can imagine you have two axes, like very high dimensional axes, which one is shape and one is weight. And basically you are doing coordinate descent to find out your best solution. So the first thing is basically, this is people do vector solving. They know how basically you have shapes, then you solve for the weight. But you probably want to, so this equation they have, for example, you have to solve for the rotation, which and also the translation here. And basically in the middle is the Blendshape. The D is a shape, and W are the weights you want to solve, and M is a neutral pose. And so X is actually essentially a Blendshape rig, like this translate or rigid translate in space. And then you want to match your Blendshape to the pose you captured. So and M is some confidence value you want to have. So essentially you're solving this. It's because of the rigid motion, this becomes a nonlinear problem. If you don't look at the rigid motion, don't look at the R and T. This is basically a simple linear this way. But because of that, it becomes nonlinear. So, but still, there's a way you can solve this thing by doing a smaller alternating organization. That is, you fix the Blendshape weight and you solve for the rigid motion by SVD. And then once you have the rigid motion, you apply it back, then you solve for the weight. So you're doing like an inner loop, sort of still like alternating operation, but you can do that, and that will give you a good answer. So, and the initial shape D here, we are initialized by deformation transfer. That is, usually you have a template character to begin with, right? And this template will define the blend shapes you want, the definition of blend shapes. For example, you have jaw open, you have eyebrows, braces. Then we transfer that to the capture neutral pose for that active. Then you begin this step. And usually you will incorporate with two different regulations. One is the temporal consistency. That is, well, the weight you're solving for the current frame will be similar to the previous frame. This is just a basic assumption. Then, but if your poses, they are kind of like temporal irrelevant, like because when we capture pose, fax poses, right? You have jaw open, you have maybe smile. They are kind of unrelated to each other, so you can discard this term. But later on, we'll also demonstrate that we can actually learn a rig from a continuous capture, a sequence. So then this term can kick in. And also, people now they are really interested in using sparsity to help to understand. Like in terms of there's actually an area called for like compressed sensing. Okay, the compressed sensing is basically rely on this sparsity argument a lot. So it's basically because, as for example, this will also learn from human experience. Like when an artist try to pose a Blendshape rig, usually he won't use every shape. He will probably use the key shapes, then do a fine tuning, but only for a specific term. So if you look at the animation curve from an artist, it usually tend to be very sparse because as human we cannot just like dialing everything at the same time. It's very difficult to control. And such idea was incorporated into mathematic organization. So this is called like a compressed sensing, or in this case, very simple. You just need to add an energy term of this L1 node, which is just the sum of the absolute value for everything. And you can see, okay, this is typical result. Like so, on the left is a track.
I was just curious about the L1 norm.
Yes.
You constrain the weights to be from 0 to 1.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Okay. So that bring out a very good point. So because in our case, weight will always be positive, be larger than 0, right? So you can imagine this absolute value will just disappear. So this thing will basically become the sum of all weight, and you can describe it as a linear algebra way, which is a one vector. Like you have a vector of all ones, and then you dot with the weight vector, and this is basically becomes linear because usually this sparsity thing is really difficult to solve because the absolute value is not continuous. But if we can leave it as no, because our weight always positive, so this becomes like no, becomes linear. So it's very easy to solve. So this is a typical case that we do the fitting, like to show you the idea. Like this is a track geometry from the light state, tracking by this the object flow algorithm I mentioned. Then in the middle is initial Blendshape fit, and on the right shows the error in terms of color coding. But you see a lot of error happen at the jaw because the jaw just cannot reach far enough to as the real capture is. And this will be a different test. You can still see it closer, but it's still error everywhere. Because in the end, the initial Blendshape basically transfer from a template. It will look like a person, but it won't look like directly like the same actor. So you definitely need to do something about it. So in this case, we show not only we can fit we're actually considering range motion. So this will be a good case. Like there's a lot of range motion going on. We still fit that. And so now we're talking about we have talked about how to solve weight and range motion. Now once we know those, let's just feed that back to the minimization and solve for the Blendshape itself. And there's two different regression we consider here. One is everybody now kind of doing something with deformation gradient, which is basically a rotation, but like they encode like rotation or other transformation for a triangle of a given surface. Like every triangle will have this rotation when they deform into others. So so basically we use that as a regulation. So the deformation will be similar. Like if you have a jaw open pose, and we won't have the end result as similar to a jaw open pose. But because the deformation gradient is kind of like it's a differential space. It's describing differential space. So we have some experience that so the shape will look similar, but actually the motion is in different direction. Like you have like a pose, for example, if you have a Parker pose, like deep Parker, you will expect the mouse will just the leaf will go forward. But actually, because it's differential, they can move everywhere. So sometimes you end up going up, like this pointing up or pointing down. So actually, we have kind of like we have the second regression, which means we want to have them to have a similar direction. Like if this motion is going forward, like we want to have something that's going forward, not like moving all over the place. The deformation gradient will kind of constrain to have a similar shape, but it won't guarantee to have a similar direction when you kick that pose. So that's why we add a second thing to further constrain this thing. And we also only optimize for those vertex that will move. So if you have some static vertex for a particular pose, we won't touch those. So the only thing like we have a jaw and many is jaw vertices around jaw that will move. So we only consider those to optimize. So this will kind of maintain that semantic. So this will be back to the example. This will be the first fit from the initial Blendshape. And once we update that, look at the second fit will be much closer. And you can see this one, once you do this alternating organization, you do back and forth, then you will get something you want. Keep in mind that we're not only optimizing for one Blendshape, we're optimizing for every Blendshape and considering every capture pose at the same time. So this will be an overview of like where actually the changes are like not very visible, but you can see there's definitely some movement going on. Like we are actually optimizing for those, and we have to zoom in a little bit. This is like initial guess, and this will be the optimized, because now I try to flip back and forth. You see the difference, and the difference between the two are actually encoded in color. So everything is red. It's actually moved more than 1 centimeter. And also you can notice that the neutral pose is also different. Like we don't have this idea because usually like what is a neutral pose? Like when you usually when you do like this fact session, you capture an actor for reference. Like you definitely want to capture a neutral pose. But is that neutral pose a true neutral? Like how can you know? Like you ask them to do 5 neutral poses, well, I guess 5 will be totally different. It will be close, but it will be different. So we kind of introduce the idea like you can actually numerically compute a neutral pose that will basically fit to this mathematic framework. That this neutral pose can guarantee you have the lowest like energy fitting for using all other poses. So this is something like you can consider, because we have a problem of like what is a neutral pose? Like every time we pick a neutral pose, the Blendshape will be different. Then you have to fit in again. And sometimes artists will also change the neutral pose. Like this thing will go on and go on. Okay, we have so these are other poses other than jaw open, so you can see the improvement. And of course, it won't be perfect. I mean, it's definitely because it's limited by how many poses you have. What are the configuration for those poses? Right? If you don't have a forehead motion, or you're losing some motion, definitely you cannot reach there. But it's also a good indication that maybe if you have high error around certain area, you can add a temporary pose around that thing and fit to this framework, learn that again. This is another pose. You see how the jaw shape changes during the organization. And it's all like it's not changed because we don't want the shape to be changed a lot. Like we don't want them to lose their semantic. Like a smile, we want to have still be a smile in the end. But just by doing this tiny change all over the place, you can have a very good fit already. And this is a different character, a female character that will have less error, but still you can see the difference. And we see how the organization helped the fitting.
How many iterations do you
do? Usually it's 32. 32. But now I think I'm only showing like 12, I guess, for each pose, because it will converge very quickly. Because it's a EM process, it's an expectation maximization process. Usually it takes very long time to converge. So at some point you can cut. So so maybe after 10 iterations is already you cannot notice the difference. Yeah. And usually the first iteration you have the best update. Yeah. But the improvement drop very significantly quickly. See, this is something Doc just mentioned. Like this is a convergence curve. As you can see, this solid line means the arrow in our case, generally reduce 50% to 50, 40% to 50%. Yeah. But I mean, we haven't done any further analysis on this. Like basically, for example, you can, like I said before, you can add new shapes to help you fit better, but we haven't done anything like that. But in theory, you can like if you're using a fixed poses, like we are using 40 poses, then you have like 50% of the reduction for error in general. And now we not only learn from individual capture poses, as I said before, we can actually learn from a long sequence. In this case, we don't really track through the long sequence with object flow. We actually do track with the Blendshape itself by rigid fitting, because object flow tend to drift unless you figure out some like anchor frame, like this frame will be similar to that frame, and this frame will be similar as a guidance. Then you can kind of track through. Otherwise, it's very difficult for object flow to track from the beginning to the end. But we found this non-rigid fitting is actually more robust. Like by being fitting means because you capture those dense geometry, right, as shown on the left. Then basically you try to fit your Blendshape to this dense geometry. Then you don't really do like tracking. Tracking can be a system, but actually you're doing fitting. You're doing 3D fitting. The 3D fitting can be more constrained. So this is something that we learned. So this is a typical case that you track or you fit with the initial Blendshape. Again, you're solving rigid motion and Blendshape at the same time. And this will be the ones you kind of, because the fitting will kind of set up the correspondence. So you can actually learn from the residual and resolve again, learn from the residual, resolve again. And this is an optimized Blendshape after 6 iterations. I will show you the like the difference between the two. Let's just pick out one frame. Yeah, some frames they might not work well, but this frame works pretty good. And will be then, because our pipeline use the same template Blendshape at all time, so we have the same semantic all over our characters. So you can easily do like retargeting from one to the other by just merely transferring the weights. So it will be a show one of these retargeting results.
Now, in a long sequence like this, when you're optimizing the blend shapes, are you using every single frame of the sequence?
Yes.
Wow.
No, you don't have to do that. Actually, will have a problem doing that because, for example, you can imagine because the long sequence, it might tend to favor some shapes other than other, right? So we haven't discussed anything about that. But you can imagine you might want to have something like weighting between poses to help the research distribute better. Yeah. Otherwise, the least square might be favor some poses with a lot of frames, but not the others. Like for example, if you have long sequence don't have any broad motion, then you cannot certainly learn from those. Showing a different character from the same process. So limitations. So definitely, you need to have a good template to work with. Even you have a good template, sometimes it's not enough. So we are actually thinking about like using a database or a data set of many characters to help us to understand more about deformation. Because with only one template, you only have one reference for deformation. But if you have a set of templates, then you can choose the best for you, or you can build out. You can build a model for, let's say, you build a morphable model for jaw open, you build a model for eye close, then you have a model for this deformation for particular pose. Then you'll be more powerful tool to do this kind of feature. And of course, since I said earlier, this is it's an ear pose problem. You add some like regularization to help you to to find a solution. Essentially, this could be an overfitting problem, where because this is a dilemma. If you want to fit better, you will reduce the influence from the regularization, right? Such that you can deform better, you can deform more. But if you heavily rely on the regularization from your initial guess, then you couldn't deform a lot. Then you have high fitting error. But once you have you relax that regulation, but there will be a problem of overfitting. For in this case, this will be the initial fit, and it will be like the error after this all the iterations. But still, you can see this. I don't know if you can see it, but this shape is basically it's not something you want. It's basically having noise everywhere. It's a weird deformation everywhere. Because even though the combination of each individual Blendshape will kind of fit the input in a very good way, but when you look at each individual poses, it's not something you want. It's basically overfitting. Like the contribution is good, but if you look at each individual, it's not. No, it will be noisy and not something you want. So that's my conclusion. We're trying to integrate pipeline into maybe our future games, but currently like this is still like a research stage. We actually want to explore more about some of like finding like options we can plug this into our real production. And we so this basically try to do an automatic generation of Blendshape based on capture poses, and also this maintains semantics. It can work with fact post based like capture or even longer sequence. So you can imagine that in the future we might just get rid of the idea of fact post, because fact is some people have difficulty perform all the poses, and people always say like this is fact inspired, but the people have different kind of thing on capture. So why not just capture the some natural dialogue or the actual like shot we want to capture? Then we can optimize the Blendshape just dedicated to each shot. Think about this, like if you have a shot that only have happiness or happy expression in that shot, why you need angry pose or sad pose in your Blendshape? You don't have to build Blendshape like universal Blendshape for everything. Right? If this is commercial, only have happy shape or you definitely don't have other. You have the choices, or I said. So you can actually optimize Blendshape based on each shot, and such that it can be proven better. With the Cyclistic, all our colleagues, and actually our capture studio for providing all the data. Thank you.
Awesome.
I'm a bit nervous.
You were great. No. If I could have you, I'm going to switch the input so everybody can see you, because I have questions, and I'm sure other people do. If you would stand, Stefan, you scoot over here. Alex, if you could go there. Okay, sure. Because otherwise, they can't see you. Watch out for the camera. There we go.
So you actually put my laptop.
Sure. I'm going to switch the camera. That's the wrong one. There you go. There you're at. No, there's our author. Yay! Hi, author.
Hi, everyone.
Okay, so I got lost at the end.
Okay. As usual. Oh, my bad.
No, not at all. You're bad. So you were talking about a library of Blendshapes. So at the very beginning, you assume just a generic rig, right?
Yes.
How many Blendshapes were you using in the generic?
In this one, I think 40.
40 Blendshapes.
Including neutral. So,
and it's inspired Blendshape?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yes. Like left price separated, no. But we only have because it's very minimal. It's like 40 is quite minimal. So we have usually most shapes like do all the like vowels, consonants, jaw motion, and also eyebrow, basically inner raise eyebrow, inner razor, outer razor, or like what do you call it? Nose winkler, something like that. Yeah.
Another question too. Are you taking into consideration combinations of shapes? So in a lot of rigs, you've got fax pose A, fax pose B, and each of them individually look good and like their individual fax poses.
Yes.
But together, they don't look good, and their final shape is
Right.
a new, different combination A, B.
Yes. So that's why we kind of try to optimize the shape like altogether. Like let's just I think it's very good. For example, when we build Blendshape rig, usually you capture 2 poses, right? And you have artists clean up, try to segment the area you want. In the end, these 2 poses, when they add up, they don't look right. So that's why we we want to learn. We don't want to just directly segment those things and put it all together. We want to learn it such that we have our own representation for Blendshape. Then we just want to optimize those to fit them better.
So you're fitting it so it looks good at A, looks good at B, and looks good at B, even if they don't.
Yes.
So that you get some medium between all of them, but not necessarily hitting all of them exactly the same.
Right. Like directly copy them, crop them, and copy is the best thing, because once you crop, like different pose might have different cropping area and different weighting. In terms of, some people like to feather the boundaries, but they have different kind of work. So when those things, when you have a Blendshape rig that is prepared in that sense, it's hard to guarantee some shape that when they add up, they look right. Usually might look okay, but there's certainly some poses. Particularly, I would say, around the leaf can be a different problem, because the leaf can be very flexible. So we want to so our idea is to I just have some definition of what I want, and I just try to optimize that based on what we perceive from the capture. And this is good because now you don't have to type your capture to the Blendshape. Like back in the day, when even maybe now, if you say I want to prepare a Blendshape rig, I have Japan, I have iCloud, I have something like that. You will ask that actor to perform every shape you want to do, right? Then you start to clean up. But now you can capture anything you want. Then we'll just try to optimize for each pose, but we don't really tie these 2 things together. So that can be a bit more convenient.
I have a follow-up to Darren's question. So it's with this technique, if you decided that, given that it is preserving the semantics of the template shapes, right? If you decided, we really do find that having a corrective here, having some other shape really helps. You could have that in your template, right? And it could actually refine that for different actors.
Yeah. That's
Is that a good idea?
Would that corrective have to be there at the beginning? And
no, let's just say, okay, your current Blendshape set is losing some part of the face. Through the analysis, you might know, okay, this part is definitely causing high error across all the capture poses.
Right.
Then what you can do is you should know, okay, definitely considering either manual or automatic way to add that thing back to the rig, then you do that process. But you can easily do that manually, right? Like just say you're missing this eyebrow razor. Then once you know doing the fitting, okay, this area definitely causing you trouble. I will add that shape back to the Blendshape set. Then refit doing all this thing again. But if you want to do that automatically, the tricky part is whether you want to do it automatically. Because when you do it automatically, you have to consider, okay, is this deformation error is like a group, or is scattered all over the place? Because if it's a group, then it easily can be added, right? And you can provide it with a semantic, but it's the eyebrow. But if it is all over the place, there might be something wrong with your rig, right? But this is also hard to debug. That thing in terms that there's no semantic, and Blendshape is definitely semantics is the most important thing for people artists, because they really want to rely on that for rigging and also animation.
Just two things, 2 comments. Now you are working with 40, 60, 80 Blendshape. You're working with a very low number of Blendshape. These guys over here probably work with 1,000, 1,200, probably easy, right?
No.
Primary,
Secondary, I'm telling the corrective, I'm the combinations, the corrective, is everything, all the little corrections. Now, how would you, two questions. One, how would you think of your system being expanded to actually support this kind of rig? And the second one, which is also related to what you just said, if something is all together and you know there's a big lump over here that's missing, you can add it. It's no problem, right? You segment it simply by neighborhood or whatever. But if it's all over the place, then how do you do it? And when I look at your examples, the error is all over the place, right? If you look at the difference between the stream of data and the resolved blend shapes, there's all these little details around the edge of the lips and these little rotations that just happen both morphologically and temporally that you're missing. And the question is there a solution for that within this framework, or you have to do something else?
So there's two questions. One is, like, can you incorporate with like corrective shapes, for example, like you have your key shape and also some secondary shapes. Usually when we do this, using the secondary shapes, they are kind of like they will make this blend shape solving nonlinear, basically, because a secondary shape might be activated by two or more shapes, which means the weight for that secondary shape might be the product of some blend shape, such that when you dial these two in, okay, this correction will be dialed in. Like when you dial in only one, but the other one is zero, this one will be zero. So it's like a product. So the weight here is actually a product. So which means the blend shape represent become nonlinear. So you need a nonlinear solver in this case to help you to solve if you are considering correction shape. And even that, some rig they have conditions like this is some shape that basically they can dial in and out condition, and then I don't have any good answer about that. Yeah. But I do know some people, like, if you there's people like I worked at Weta before, that basically their secondary is triggered by a product of some other shapes. So this is nonlinear, then you can still solve for it. It's not conditional.
Yeah.
So the second question is,
well, I actually.
Oh, the error was kind of scattered.
Yeah, scattered error. How do you account for the scattered error?
Yeah,
because that's where your system will all of a sudden become interesting.
Yes.
Because right now it still looks a little gamey, right?
Yes, yes.
Low resolution.
So remember, I said so what the very easy thing I can think of is to not use a single template character to do this transfer thing, but instead using a lot of track or very nicely built rig to help you to do this. For example, if you just have let's say jaw open, even different characters you build have different jaw open deformation. Some of them maybe have more wrinkles around the neck, and some not. So if you can actually build a model of jaw open, actually it's not a single jaw open anymore. It's actually a model of jaw open. That model can describe, okay, based on different gender or different things that can deform differently. Like jaw open can deform, then you can fit better, right? So it's that you are putting something in the middle, this deformation model for jaw open, that can help you to guide through this. And also you can do it for other shape as well. This is the quickest thing I can think of.
Propagating the changes to the blend shapes that you're doing in this paper into that model sounds complicated.
It could be, yes.
Yeah, I mean,
is the end result ultimately an animatable set of blend shapes?
Yes.
That will be animated by artists?
Oh, definitely, yes. So you have seen the retargeting, and the curve will be like smooth, depending on how much like temporal smooth you put on to the optimization.
And my question is kind of going back to the previous one. So there are fact shapes multiple fact shapes that move the same regions. And if you just linearly blend them together, and that's where combinations come in, right?
Yes.
And we've also tried this ourselves, and if you optimize to try and figure them out automatically, they're all going to come in at lesser value than they really should be for the original pose being turned on.
Yes.
And that's where we come in with combinations, where we have one shape that moves a certain region, the next shape that should move that region too, but doesn't because the combination overrides that motion.
Right.
And kind of how because then if you are doing an animatable rig, That is something that you dial on that shape, but you won't really get the true form of the shape because it's been optimized.
Yeah, it's also expressed the limitation of facial solving because we're essentially doing some facial solving here.
Right.
The solve result is not particularly one-to-one. So I guess one of these the sparseness can kind of mitigate that thing, but it's not controllable. Like I know. So we always mention that like people actually in our team mentioned this question where like I would like to usually this pose is usually dialed by some poses that like affected by artists, but your solve is dialing other poses. So how can you choose the important how can you make a hierarchy of poses that help you to?
Can't you solve combination poses?
Yes. I mean, something you can say, okay, for this friend, I kind of solve with certain shape pose first, then solve with the other, using the residual and using other shape to fit the residual.
I'm actually gonna take this kind of conversation offline. We're getting kicked out.
Okay.
The room is in use in a bit. One last question: how long does this sucker take? Because you're solving some big matrices.
Oh, it's very fast. Yeah. Usually, if you're optimized for let's say 100 shape poses, it can be done like within like 30 minutes on a single workstation.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So we very quick.
Well, Alex, this was brilliant. For a 20-minute talk, you took 45 minutes. I asked a couple of questions. You got to work on that. Thank you so much for this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck in SIGGRAPH Asia. Bye, everybody.
No question for you.
Yeah.
Outside.
Yeah, let's hold off here. Hang up and stop.